Hi, I'm gonna be reading through The Eye of the World in this video. I'll do about a 10-second response to every chapter that I come across. There's about 53 chapters, and then one for the prologue as well, so 54. Yeah, I'll do it. So far, just read the prologue. So there's a dude who's kind of schizophrenic in some sense, and he can teleport himself. He's killed his family, and I don't know why. So a mysterious black-coated figure is following two farmers who have just turned up to town, and winter should be ending. Possibly. So Lady Moraine has turned up in town and has given money to Rand in order for him to be her servant or something. Very strange. Don't trust her. For 3, Rand isn't good at talking to girls. There's a prophecy being fulfilled of a dragon and a dark one, maybe? Yeah. So we finally met the Gleeman, who seems to be a pretty knowledgeable chap. And Rand's dad has admitted that he believes him about the guy and the mysterious cloaked figure in black. Chapter 5 is good. Rand and Tam went home, got attacked by Trollocs, and a Fade was going to come or something, but Rand ran away. Tam's been injured. Can't wait to get to chapter 6. So Rand is taking Tam back to the village, he's like mortally wounded and he's got a fever, talking in riddles and dreams, and he's adopted. So Rand turns up with Tam to the village. The wisdom can't heal him, so he turns to Lady Moraine, who is an Aes Sedai, which I don't know what exactly that means yet. Okay, so I've read several chapters now. Chapter 8, Tam's sword has some weird special markings on it that he passed down to Rand. So there's something there that hasn't been quite explained. I love the world building, like the subtle, you can see that there's things that are happening in behind the scenes and some of the words and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, oh yeah, I see what's going on. So chapter 8 was good. Was it? Moraine heals Tam, so he's healed now. He's fine. So chapter 9, Rand has, there's like a dream sequence. Maybe it's prophetic or something, it's hard to quite tell. And then Moraine tells a history of the land, of like a great people before Rand's people were around. So then chapter 10, there's more revealed that, the Trollocs didn't just randomly turn up at this village, that was a targeted attack. And so we got to get the heck out of Dodge. So Moraine, Rand, Lan, they're all going to go, as well as his friend Perrin, Matt, is it Egwin? I think that's, I don't know how to pronounce her name. She kind of turns up and goes, oh, I'm going to come along as well. And so does Tom Marilyn, the Gleeman. So the band's together, they're getting out of there. So chapter 11, we find out that Aes Sedai can also heal or rejuvenate horses as well, but they can't do it to themselves. And she also has the ability to affect the weather, and she makes like a fog while they're running away as they get to this landing, so they can get across the river Taryn. So chapter 12, they've crossed the river, and Egwin is now developing her powers, and she wants to become an Aes Sedai, which Rand is kind of against. And in chapter 13, even a lot of the boys are kind of against this idea of Egwin becoming an Aes Sedai, and there's this kind of conflict between men and women to do with this magic kind of stuff, like men are somehow more corrupt than women or something. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, we'll see how it goes. And the rest in chapter 13 is they get to this city called Baelin. I'm not sure how some of these names are pronounced. And there's another prophecy about the dragon the dragon will get the sword that's in this place called the Stone of Tear, but he would also destroy the Stone of Tear, but no one can get into the Stone of Tear unless they're like part of this special group. So I'm not sure how that's going to be fulfilled. And then there's this other group, is it the Children of Light, which hate the Aes Sedai. But I still haven't quite seen the bad side of the Aes Sedai yet. We'll see what happens. It's going great, I'm loving it. Well, I did it. I read way too much. So I read up to chapter 30, and so much has happened. It's a really good read. Each time I finished a chapter, I was like, oh man, I need to record, but there was such a draw to keep reading as well. It's written so well. So chapter 14, the gang gets settled into the Stag and Lion Inn at Belian, and Ramd has a dream / vision of the Dark One who challenges him during that time in that dream. But it's not a dream, it must be like a real thing, because I think there's an effect he has on the real world or something. Chapter 15, we've got the other lads that had a similar dream. As they walk around town, they bump into Min, who is a soothsayer. She like prophesies for the future in some ways, and also into a group that we haven't met before called the Children of Light, who are just like a self-righteous group of people who aren't like a legal force. They're just like a religious force of sorts. It's weird. Chapter 16, they head back to the inn, and Nynaeve has turned up. She's confronting Moraine, the Aes Sedai, about taking the group away from the Two Rivers. Chapter 17, there's a couple of stories that get told, and then there's a dance at the end, and we find that Rand, again, terrible with girls, which is funny, when something happens later. Rand fumbles around as he tries dancing with the girls that he's familiar with, which is Nynaeve, Egwene, and Moraine. Each time he can't dance properly. It's hilarious. Then when the dance finishes, a Fade turns up, and in the inn, and the party have to leave town immediately. And they confront a group of the Children of the Light at the town gate as they try to leave. Chapter 18, there's like hundreds of Trollocs chasing after them. They're quite far away, but they know that they're coming, and so they're running away for several days. And then they confront a group of them and they fight them. When the leading Fade is killed, the Trollocs around him kind of go into a seizure of sorts. So there's some kind of connection there, I think. It's quite strange. And then they make their way to the ruined city, Shadar Logoth. Chapter 19, the boys go exploring the ruins of the city, and they come across a person named Mordeth, who leads them to a treasure, but it's a trap. And Mordeth has like vampire attributes. He can like change form and stuff. He tries to attack them, but they run away and escape back to the camp. And then chapter 20, they start making their way out of the ruined city. This is where things get fun. And as an army of Trollocs start going into the city. Now usually the Trollocs stay out of that city because there's this like a mist that flows through. It's called Mashadar. That just kills anything that touches it, so the Trollocs don't usually go into the city. It causes the party to split up, and so this is like a fundamental chapter when the party splits, because they're heading towards the Arundel River, because Trollocs and Fades are hydrophobic. They don't like to be near water, large bodies of water. Rand, Matt, and Tom make it to the river and find a boat with a crew, and they hop on board. Start going down the river. Perrin and Egwene rush out of the city, where Perrin, he isn't paying attention, and he ends up falling into the water and he gets washed down the river. Chapter 21, Nynaeve meets up with Lan and Moraine, so they're on the other side of the river now, and they catch up. Nynaeve doesn't like Moraine at all. They still have these disagreements. So they head south down the river, and I think this is the first chapter where we finally kind of see things from different character perspectives apart from Rand's. So this is where it's starting to get a bit more interesting. I like how they're doing this. Oh, sorry, how Robert Jordan's doing it. Chapter 22, Perrin meets up with Egwene. Perrin is like, he's a blacksmith, he's kind of a slow dude, and he has trouble acting as a leader, trying to work with Egwene, trying to work with women, and he still doesn't like Aes Sedai, so he doesn't like the fact that Egwene is trying to become an Aes Sedai, or wanted to become. Chapter 23, they get lost in the forest and meet Elias, who can talk to wolves. He's kind of like a loner, and we find out that Perrin has the ability to talk to wolves as well. He tries to resist it, but he eventually uses it later on. Elias joins them as they head to Camelin. In chapter 24, Rand has another dream of the Dark One. The riverboat, which is called the Spray, is slowly making its way down the Iredale River. Rand surprises himself by calmly performing acrobatic feats from the mast and the ropes. And so we're seeing like powers coming out of these characters now that they weren't aware of before. Like with Perrin and being able to talk to wolves, and now Rand and being able to do these acrobatic feats. Oh yeah, chapter 25, Perrin and his group, Egwene and Elias, they meet up with a traveling group of people who are like a pacifist group of people. They chill with them for a bit and discuss like in the pacifist way of life. Chapter 26, the boat finally turns up at Whitebridge, but we find that there's already been characters in Whitebridge, the fades and stuff, and so Tom is like, nah, we need to keep moving, this place isn't safe. Oh, that's right, yep. And at the end of that chapter, and at the end of chapter 26, Tom has to fight a fade, and so Matt and Rand get to escape Whitebridge, and we don't know what happens to Tom. Oh, sorry, chapter 27, Perrin, Egwene and Elias finally leave the travelling people, and they kind of have to split ways. Chapter 28, Nynaeve and Moiraine and Lan turn up at Whitebridge, and we find out that the coins and all the tokens that Moiraine gave the boys way in like chapter 1 or something were actually like tracking devices essentially that Moiraine was using, which makes me more suspicious of her, because it's like, why did she do it so early in the piece? I'm still, the Aes Sedai, I'm still like, I don't know, they know a lot of stuff, and she does all this good stuff to help people. I mean, apart from the crashing of the destruction of the ferry when they went over the river Taryn, but it's like, I don't know, man. Where does all this wealth come from? That's one of my questions. They can just bribe people off. I'm like, okay, well, dodge. Alright, chapter 29, we have a chasing scene where Perrin and Egwene and Elias are just running away from these like groups of ravens that are kind of possibly searching them out and chasing them. The wolves have to fight the ravens as they're trying to run away, and they find this kind of spot where the ravens can't go, and they calm down. And then in chapter 30, the Children of Light can go in this certain area, and they attack them, and essentially they've captured Egwene and Perrin. We don't know what's happened to Elias. One of the wolves got killed as well, and so that's been like a big thing for Perrin. There's so many more details apart from that. This book is so good. It's a really good read. It just keeps you going. You go, oh yeah, and now that it's all split up into these different groups, you follow this one for a bit, and then you follow this other one for a bit. He writes very well. Yeah, that's for sure. Well, I finished it. So Rand is the Dragon Reborn. He clearly doesn't have control of his powers though. He fought against this dude who was really powerful. Somehow killed the Dark One, Baal-Azamon, but I mean, it's like in the dream state as far as I'm understanding it. Really good, really good. I like that Robert Jordan just keeps the story going. There's always these deadlines, and the characters, at least in this story, it's very much like a chase. They're being chased, they have to get somewhere, and then just when you think like, oh man, how can they do this? It's impossible. Something will come up, or they'll meet someone new. Like Rand meets the royalty somehow, and like just happens to be in a certain place. I like how they've got this idea of the pattern, which kind of explains how this character from nowhere, who we still don't really understand his background and how he's tied to the sword and stuff. I like how that explains how he's a hero of sorts. It's a good way of doing it. Moiraine is cool, but like that last bit, that last paragraph with her like listening in on Rand's and Egwene's conversation, I'm just like, she's got a dark side, and there's like a manipulation there that she's always doing, and she's very much, it's almost like the women are always turned against the men and are somehow better than the men all the time, and the guys are just idiots. The guys are just dumb. This is how it's kind of written. It's just like, I don't quite know where that's leading still, this whole men-woman thing, especially to do with wielding the true source or the one power, which I assume is the same thing. I like that he uses different names for stuff. Lan's backstory being a king, cool, awesome, sun romance kind of thing between Lan and Nynaeve was, I guess okay, but understandable that he was like, nah, it couldn't work between us because my life's in tatters and I'm a nomad kind of thing. But again, I don't know, maybe it'll work out later on, but at the moment it's very much like the women are always in the right place and are better than the men because the men have been tainted or something. And I guess in the next book, Rand will be kind of figuring out how to wield his powers or something, I don't know, no one can teach him. Oh, and Loyal, cool character, just chill, helping out. So, recommend. Like the last 7 chapters or so, I just kept reading until I finished it. I was like, I want to finish this. I want to see how it goes, kind of thing. Totally worth it. It was awesome. Next, maybe not the next video, but future video, yeah, the Great Hunt. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Cool.